Who can you go to for help when you feel like crying inside as a dental practice owner? I'm here with my awesome friend, Dr. Mark Costas. I was saying yesterday he's into journaling. I got up yesterday, Mark, and I said it's going to be a great day. I took the dog for a walk. Then two team members called out or texted out, and I cried inside and ate breakfast nachos. So being a practice owner can make you do that. Dr. Mark Costas runs an amazing group, the Dental Success Network, and they have their signature event, one of my favorite, the Dental Success Summit coming up. So Mark, just share with our audience a little bit. You've been on many times. The Dental Success Summit, what's it about? How's it grown? And who should come to this?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me today, Paul. As always, it's great just chatting with you, hanging out with you. The Dental Success Summit, just like you said, is our signature event. This is our 10th annual. We've done one event in San Diego. The rest have been, all other 8 have been in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is right in my backyard. But this year we figured we would switch venues to make it extra special and not so hard for the East Coasters to get there. So we plopped it right in the middle of the country, which is San Antonio, Texas. So it's going to be an awesome, awesome event at one of my favorite hotels at the La Cantera Resort right there in San Antonio. Beautiful, beautiful venue. Awesome speakers lined up. We'll probably have, well, they say we can only fit 650 people in the room, which is small for us, but I always manage to get a few more people squished into the back of the room. So probably around 700 people. And it sells out every single year. I
like this squish, Mark. We've been speakers for many years, and our dentist people, how would you call them? Not kind sometimes. I've gone to speak and people sit as far away from me as possible. There's an entire room they want to sit. So you should make the squish section. You have to pay more to get in there. You have to pay more to get in the back. That's where they want to sit, the dentist. Now it's bathing suit season there, Mark. So for the rest of this live, I think it's important if I get ready for this by putting on this weight vest and doing some bicep curls for the next 15 minutes, because I have to do the work while I do work. Now, this event, Mark, we have a great nacho deal. My team's going to share it. But if people are hearing about it for the first time, what are they going to get out of this weekend? I know you talk about the business of dentistry, EBITDA, vision. It's always great. But what are they going to get out of it this weekend in 2023?
Yeah, I think you would probably agree with me. Paul, it's very hard to describe what it is. It's different in many, many ways. The speakers are people that actually are practice owners that are actually doing it. Our black belt coaches are all speaking. There's 16 of them. Everybody that is a black belt coach, that means that they have a very, very effective operation. They have a high leadership score, a high culture score in their office, a very high systemization score, and very low overhead. So what we like to focus on is creating kind of this more composite human, somebody that is really good at business, somebody that maximizes the time that they're at work without completely wrecking their personal life, which is something that I've done in the past. So I know I have a little bit more insight than others about how to avoid it. So yeah, we talk a lot about leadership, a lot about work-life balance, a ton of very, very specific case study type presentations on how to manage a practice, how to be an effective and sophisticated business owner.
I love that. That composite human's great, Mark. You got to ask, I think Tokiyama, if you can use omnichroma, because that's the composite that can do everything. So can we be the omnichroma? Or they should at least sponsor. And I think one of the things is we all know as dentists, the patient comes in and they say they want whitening, but they have 14 other problems, and you have to redirect them and say, we will get to whitening later, but how about if we focus on some of things? I feel like with your group, many people come to you saying, hey, Mark, I want to make more money, but really they want more morale. Really what they want more is to feel better outside the operatory. Talk to me a little bit about this, because the people on stage are just so genuine. It's poignant how they share how, because of Dr. Mark Costas and your team, their outside the operatory lives are changed. They thought they wanted to increase their profit. That comes along the way, but how do they find more time for their family and fun?
Yeah, we have a very intentional framework for kind of creating this lifestyle that most people desire. And it all comes down to fulfillment, right? So that's kind of one of those airy-fairy right brain buzzwords that people like to throw around, but fulfillment comes from a lot of different areas. Most of us think when we graduate that fulfillment is going to come from making enough money to basically do whatever we want and to have whatever we want. But I've actually made the mistake of hanging my happiness and fulfillment on, how many zeros were in at the tail end of my bank account. And that frankly just, it doesn't create fulfillment. What you really have to focus on is the way that you're handling stress, your what we call the mind quadrant, your meaning quadrant, which is the reason that you're on this earth, and your personal relationships, your professional relationships. The muscle quadrant is how vibrant you are, how healthy of a physical vessel you are. And then, like you said, the last thing always falls into place once you master those other three quadrants, and that's the money quadrant. So I had it all wrong. I said money first, and the rest will fall into place, and it will make me fulfilled and happy. But actually, that was the opposite of the way that
I love that. If I could dig in this for, because we've been a Sony podcast, and little do people know you owned a taco truck, right, Mark, back in the day. So
That
you
was
know,
my
very
first
tacos
business.
and nachos. And also one of the things I think I can ask, you always told me, if a dental associate's listening right now and they're saying, my office isn't busy enough for me, I have 3 hours open, and I'm so annoyed that I have 3 hours open, you would use that time and go hang out with the office manager, and you would use that time and go ask about this. Tell our group about the why, because I feel it's fundamental to some of your success, that you didn't just, we didn't have Facebook back then, so I guess we just had to read a book. But if you had open time, why did you hang out with the office manager and ask them about what they did?
Yeah, interesting. That's an interesting way of asking that question. So I graduated from dental school. It took me 3 years and 21 tries to get into dental school because my GPA wasn't super awesome, and I was working full time as an undergrad, and I was a student athlete at the same time. So my attentions were split in a lot of different directions. Even though I knew that I wanted to go into dentistry, my GPA was not as great as it should be. So it took me several different attempts, 21 in fact, and I got a single acceptance. So I felt like I was a little bit behind the 8 ball. So when everybody else went off and got a residency, which if I had the time, I would have done that. I would have gotten a GPR, and probably surgically based GPR, got my IV sedation license and all that stuff. What so many young and smart dental students do nowadays is they plan to do a GPR. I totally believe that that's a great way to go. But I was already 3 years behind everybody else. So I felt like I needed to go out and I needed to start making some money. I was already married, and it was time to start providing for my family. So I didn't do a GPR. I did not do an AGD. I didn't specialize. I took a job where I knew that it was going to be my quote unquote financial residency. It was at a Medicaid office owned by a friend of mine. He put me in there immediately on day one as the sole provider in that office. So I had to learn how to work 4 operatories simultaneously. And I knew that it was going to be a 1-year financial / crash course in clinical dentistry. And so I learned all the clinical stuff that I needed to learn in a very short period of time, as far as how to juggle several different rooms, how to be a very sound clinician, but also in every spare second that I got, I knew that I was going to be buying a practice after a year. Every spare second that I got, I was just hanging out with the office manager, looking over her shoulder. I would work with her afterwards, just help her do, the billing stuff and the collections and, the end of day reports and, syncing the bank accounts with the practice management software. So I learned how to do all of that stuff my first year out, and it served me very.
They say, Mark, the devil's in the details, but really the annoyance is in the details. Because just when you said syncing the practice management software, it's like my stomach goes, oh, I've been in those situations, and no one teaches that in dental school. And it's really just a message to share with associates. It's so valuable if you have some open time. 2 hours open, don't get upset about it. Find out something that you can't learn anywhere else. Sitting next to an office manager, front desk team member, learning how insurance adjustments work and learning the why is so valuable. And I think I'm right in saying this, that Medicaid office, was it kind of like trial by elevator fire? Did you have a lot of extractions during that year? What was the value? You said something really valuable. See, people, they sometimes give me friendly grief and say, Paul, you love GPR so much. Mark, not one GPR pays me to promote them. That's not a thing, right? So I say, you should do a GPR AG. They go, Paul, you have some ulterior motive. I said, what ulterior motive? Nobody's paying me to do this. I actually sell CE, so maybe it's even better for my company if people know less. So I'm doing it out of the goodness of my dental heart because I just know it's valuable. You're part of the Colorado Surgical Institute. That GPR, you've said it a few times, that extraction experience you get in a GPR AGD, why do you think that translates so well into success for today's dentist?
Oh gosh, it's so important. I was lucky enough back in the day. I graduated in 2002 from dental school. I got all of my clinical requirements done in my junior year. So we had an externship program through my school at the time. And I got to work basically as a Medicaid student dentist, which basically meant a dentist in the community. So I was a full-time exodontist my entire senior year. So I was doing extractions and full dentures my entire senior year.
Yeah.
So I learned early the importance of being able to take out a good tooth and how to preserve a ridge for future implants and how to make removable dentures and partials. That was a skill set that so few of my classmates ever really kind of embraced.
And that comes back to help you so much, because in private practice, it's very hard to have someone say, just go try to figure out extractions. Patients won't tolerate that. But when you're in a GPR, AGD, Medicaid office, you're all they got, right?
Yeah.
And they'll let you figure this out in a safe way. And then I know you teach with the Colorado Surgical Institute, then it all comes back to this. Your $200 extraction can turn into a $2,000 implant, which can turn to a $20,000 overdenture, which people love, and we should be so proud that they can get. I want to do something on this, Mark. My happiest patients are the ones who've spent the most money in my office.
No, it's true.
My happiest patients. So all this stuff that they make money so weird for us to talk about, but in the real world, the people who spend the most money in your office are usually the most grateful, because you have I don't know if this happened to you, Mark, but no one's thanked me for a class 2 composite my entire career. No one's ever said, thanks for the care and skill you put into this 18MO. But I've done implant cases where people cry, where people brag to their friends, where people email me afterwards. So I think what you're sharing in such a Dental Success Network theme is that pay attention to what matters early in your career, and you get to do awesome stuff later.
Yeah, it's so true. I don't know if you've heard about the blind taste test, the wine blind taste test study that they did. This is a legitimate, I forget what college it was, but it was a legitimate study where they had a blind wine taste test, and they covered the bottles with paper, and they said, all right, here's 3 different wines. We want you to rate them based on what you think is good, better, and best. And they had the price tags on the outside of the paper bags. And of course, people all said, all right, this is the order that I think that the value and the better taste is, of course, this most expensive one, and then medium, and then the lowest price one they thought was the least valuable, or the one that was the least tasty, less palatable. Yeah. And turns out they were all the same wine. Right. So the psychological element behind charging just a little bit more adds value to your skill set.
For sure. I mean, and these are the things that we should be talking about, because dental school charges so much. As we kind of bring it back a little bit to the Dental Success Summit, my goal is to get people who've never been there to go, right? You do a great job with your Dental Success Institute people, a great job with maybe some people I've gotten to come in the years past, but I know Dr. Christian Mullen's coming now, and I know these people are going to be there. But my goal is to say, hey, if you've never been to this thing, you come in on a Thursday night, you have a networking thing, you're there Friday and Saturday. I could be wrong, are you adding a Saturday night social event this year?
Yeah, so we launched Smile Outreach International this year, which is my nonprofit. Our goal is to put fixed mission clinics in the third world, throughout the third world. So we want to do one in the Dominican Republic, one in Southeast Asia, one in Africa somewhere, and one in Mexico. That's my vision for Smile Outreach International. And so we're going to launch Smile Outreach with a black tie gala. So we are going to be selling tickets, and 100% of the proceeds for the auction and the tickets are going to Smile Outreach International. So that's something that attendees of the summit can attend, but there are 650 tickets available for the summit. There's only 350 available for the gala, but it's going to be super fun seeing a bunch of dentists in tuxedos and gowns.
That's great. Really I want to interject, but you can text DSS to 215-543-6454. Mark and his team has generally given us even a little better deal than their community. Tickets are at a great price right now. You can reach out to dentalnachos.com. You've said this, I've seen you speak so many times, I always enjoy it. And you say something I say, that a lot of learning, so there's going to be a huge stage, great presentations, but a lot of learning happens outside of the lectures. A lot of learning happens at the oat milk and coffee, the wine time. Just Ben Kakis, I think is his name. He's such a character. I look forward to seeing him every time. He always makes me laugh. I think that's his last name. I think he's from Louisiana. You sit in these lounges with people and talk to dentists about the outside the CE learning, where some of the real stuff happens. Yeah,
I mean, we often say, it's probably overly stated at this point that dentistry is like being on an island. Yeah. you say it's actually like being in a cave, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very isolating profession. A lot of times people don't realize that people have many of the same struggles that they're experiencing as well. We've been taught our entire careers, from undergrad to dental school to private practice, to hold our challenges close to vest and not to let anybody see that we're vulnerable and weak in many different areas. The ability to meet real people in person and not just online, not just in, a group forum setting, but actually face to face.
Right.
Where I believe the majority of the value for these type of events is,
because you get to be able to say, you get to hear people's real stories. The one time dentists aren't with patients. Sometimes your spouse is there, sometimes they're not, sometimes, but you just have the time to connect. You have the time to say, I'm looking for an associate. It's one of the things I say, Mark, is, I work with DSOs, you work with DSOs, I work with private practice. I say, but it's great when there's parity out there. The NFL isn't good when two teams are great and the rest of them stink. So I say, hey, private practice dentist, why don't you hire an associate dentist, Dr. Mark? I'll hire an associate dentist part-time. We're in the same town. And now we've given a job to a new dentist, right? On its face, that sounds like a good idea. But these dentists go, they're going to learn my secrets. I go, what secrets? You use the chamfer burr too? There's no secrets, but it talks about that. And you talk about it, kind of the zombie effect of C, where we have this scarcity mindset, and you guys do everything in your power to remove that. So as we kind of wrap up here, why should a dentist watching this, whether they go to the Dental Success Summit, a Dental Nachos event, put themselves in rooms with amazing people who are not scarcity minded, who want to have your back, who want to lift you up?
Yeah, the zombie CE phenomenon is real. You go to a state regional meeting, so many times people are negative about the profession. They don't really want to be there. They're there to get their card punched and to get their minimum number of CE requirements for the next 3 years.
Right.
But this is a totally different environment. People are there to support one another. That's one of the ethics of our organization. It's community and collaboration based approach. You're going to meet people that are actually excited about the practice of dentistry, and for good reason, because they know how to run their businesses and they've been able to focus on the types of procedures that they want to do every day, and have surrounded themselves with the right type of people and the right type of training. So I really think that it's valuable. If you don't feel as though you're sophisticated when it comes to business, you can learn that vocabulary. You can learn those lessons, those valuable lessons from a 2-day event that can carry on for the rest of your career. So I can't say enough about, the value that can come. It can become one of those trajectory moments that changes.
Yeah, you meet the right person at the right time. You have a topping for everyone. And not to think, many people listen to this say, I'd like not to work as much in the chair, right? Well, you got to get an associate. How do you manage that process? So it could be simple as my first associate, my first practice acquisition, my second practice acquisition. You have people in that room who own from probably one, and better, to 30 plus practices, and they're all enthusiastic about sharing. So you can reach out to us at dentalnachos.com. If they want to go right to the website, Mark, what would be the best website for them to go to?
Yeah, you can go to truedentalsuccess.com. That's our main website. Just click on events and you'll see the first thing there. And there's cookies all over the place. So you can just click on one of them. You can learn more about the Dental Success Summit. And we hope to see you there in San Antonio. It's going to be a great time. June 16th and 17th.
June 16th and 17th, I'm going to be there. I've even convinced my brother, doesn't like to take two flights, We're going to be there together. It's a great time for everyone. Mark, I'm so glad you did do this, and I can't wait to see you there.
We'll see you in the gym in San Antonio.
Yeah, right. I know. Be ready. Thanks, Mark.
Take care.